floor is now open for anyone who would like to ask a question or make a contribution. We've got a very large number of people here, so there must be somebody who wishes to say something.
Also, we have two lots of land outside Canada. One would be with Sam's grandfather in Jerusalem, and one in Gatehart. They were northwest and just east of Gaza. They were lost after the second truce in 1941. So he became penniless. He had a house, but nothing, no business, nothing. He lived in Nukba for so many years and waiting for the return of his land. And the house was built with refugees whom he thought they would stay for weeks or months, but the trauma continued. And my children, they would want to get my father's land back and his business. And this is the real Nukba. It reflects on all Palestinians. Thank you.
My name is I actually have a question for Dennis, obviously about, apparently you are creating Conservative Friends of Palestine group, is what I was told. I don't know if you wanted to speak a bit more about that and what you're doing when that might happen.
Yes, we can. A bunch of Conservative parliamentarians have got together and created a group called Conservative Friends of Palestine. I think it's been long overdue. We have had and we have an organisation called the Conservative Middle East Council who in the past have done some incredible work on the issue of Palestine. And after discussions with the Conservative Middle East Council, we felt that specific work needed to be done on the issue of Palestine. You know, the news is huge, and you try and focus your attention on quite a specific issue, require more time and attention. So we're working with Conservative Middle East Council, who have lots of experience on this, but have set up this very specific group. And I've been really quite heartened by the amount of support that we've had, both from outside Parliament and from within Parliament. And initially, actually, we wanted to call it the Conservative Friends of Palestine and Israel because we felt that we wanted to be a portal that wanted to provide accurate and balanced information to parliamentarians on the issue of Palestine and Israel. I felt that, and lots of us felt that that wasn't currently the case within the party. And certainly what we will be doing is engaging with Palestinians and engaging with Israelis and working with civil society from both Palestine and from organisations in the United Kingdom. We've already had a couple of meetings and our first newsletter has gone out. So yeah, we hope that this will be the start of something quite interesting. And those of you who want to support us in this, there are people already in the room who have to support our first couple of events. But anybody else who's interested in supporting what we think is an information portal to make sure that parliamentarians are fully briefly informed about this issue. We're welcome to come along and support.
Excellent. It's a great step forward.
don't give up on them. That's my best advice. Yes, of course. The other thing I would say, I hope it isn't controversial to say, we're amongst people who work in this area, but the challenging thing for me has been language. I'm a lawyer. Words are important. Language is important. There's always a way to say something without causing offence. It may not always be possible, especially if you listen to the Home Secretary these days. It seems that you can always say something that causes offence. But actually, there is a way of finding the language and doing it in a way where you can be effective and you can make progress. Because politics is the art of the possible by convincing others why they should hear you. And you're not going to be heard if the language that you're using is challenging to a point where the person doesn't want to listen. So I think language is important. I also think that the emotions, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not Palestinian, but for me, again, the lawyer in me thinks you should part the emotions and deal with the facts. And the facts are so powerful that you don't necessarily need emotions to bolster them in any way. And exactly what Leila was saying, that the issue in Parliament is that often simple facts are not put before parliamentarians in a digestible form, which they can access and consume in a digestible, quick way to be informed on these issues. And part of the role of Conservative Friends of Palestine is to do that. So my ask for them really is to think and think again. My mum has this great saying that that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because He wants you to listen twice as hard as you speak. Right? I just think and think again about the language that we use, because often what gets lost in this debate is that we end up moving away from the substance of the issues, and we're fighting down these little segues and cul-de-sacs on what X's, Y's, antis, cat once said in an offensive way. And you think, I'm too busy fighting it down here, when actually we need to get back to dealing with the issue in hand. So my ask really is, how can you help? Just be incredibly factual and accurate and measured in the language that you use, and stick to the substance of the issues rather than emotions. Chris.
Chris Doyle from the Council for Arabic Understanding. Just to start off with to say thank you all to the speakers, they were absolutely fantastic. I've got a very direct question for Ambassador Hassan. You mentioned that the British authorities would have nothing to do with the Nagba commemoration in New York. At any level of Palestinian leadership, did they receive anything from the British Minister, Foreign Secretary, or even a lowly desk officer, whether it be in Ramallah or to you here in London? Did they send any sign that they were aware of or marking or sharing in any way what Palestinians are thinking about today?
Thank you, Chris, and maybe this is an opportunity to correct myself, because I should have thanked you and your team at Canada for organizing this. You are the secretary of the APG for the huge job you've done here. So, shukran, jazeela. The only thing we heard from the British government is the celebration of 75th birthday of Israel. That's the only thing. That is public, and they publicized it. The only thing we saw was ahead of that 75th celebration of the establishment of Israel is the signing of the bilateral strategic roadmap that has really, really undermined every provision of international law and international resolution that the UK has voted for. I have not seen, I'm not a lawyer, Saeed is, but I have not seen a trade document that does not have a territorial clause in my life. That document did not have a territorial clause in it. That agreement is simply giving in not to Israel, not to Israel. It was signed only by a month and a half ago when the Israeli Foreign Minister was here. That so-called strategic roadmap gave in to the settlement, because that was the beginning of the process of actually working back the whole policy of labeling and differentiation negotiation. So I'm sorry, Chris, I wish I have good news for you, and I will. Listen, the position is clear. And we meet ministers here, we just met the foreign secretary, we meet Lord Ahmed regularly, we arrange for them visits to Palestine, and the last visit by Lord Ahmed, the Minister for the Middle East, was absolutely historic. He spent a lot of time listening, using his 2 years, a lot of time visiting the field. He went to Jerusalem, he prayed in Al-Aqsa Mosque, he went to Hebron, he was chased by a settler with a video camera. He saw it all, he didn't see it. And he came back with passion and with understanding of this field. Our engagement with the British government is at the highest level, and I must add. And this is not just to give a credit, this is to be accurate. However, there is somehow, a missing link. A missing link. In all the statements, there is a missing link vis-a-vis the Palestinian pain, i.e. the Nakba. As if the British government official would come and say, we recognize the Nakba and we share the pain, it's almost a blame game for the Balfour Declaration and the beginning of sort of apology and all that. So, Chris, we haven't seen anything of such a sort. And anyway, the commemoration in the UN is not a Palestinian thing, it's a UN thing. So it's the UN that invited all countries, and we were informed that the US will not take part and the UK will not take part. Did I see any official communication? No. Did I hear any? No. In fact, I shouldn't say this. Minister is here. He's the longest serving minister for the Middle East, and we all love him and respect what he has done over the years, with passion and understanding of the complexity of the situation. But in fact, we did extend invitations, and we did say we understand if you can't say much in such an event, but at least send a junior official just to sit in one of these seats, so the Palestinian people start feeling that you care, that their pain is equally important like both others, that the UK government deals with every single catastrophe in the world, every single big problem in the world equally. It will bode well, like we said, but no way. There is a decision somewhere that so far we will not take part in any of these things. And that's why today is absolutely paramount here. That's why Wales was important. That's why Scotland is important. And that's why I see many leaders of many societies, of many organizations, they lack the knowledge, yes, and the information. But they lack the real pressure. I believe that maybe next year, you will see a government official present in the commemoration. Because this is the first time, according to my knowledge, the three parliaments of the UK do commemorate the Nakba in such a concerted, coordinated effort. And perhaps the next step, once it has reached the political level, it has got to reach the official level. But there is a lot of work to be done, Chris, you and all of us, until next year comes. Thank you.
I think our time is actually over. I'm going to take a couple of very quick questions, and then we'll have to wrap up. So I'll take this gentleman, and then I'll take ours.
Thank you. And I'm going to have to apologise because it's not a question but a contribution. I'm Ben Jami. I'm a Palestinian and I'm the director of the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. And as the ambassador said, on Saturday, we led a march through the streets of London attended by over 10,000 people and supported by 10 national trade unions. And there were two core messages from that march that I wanted to bring to this meeting this evening. The first is the message we've already heard, and it was there in Julie's introductory remarks, which is that we commemorate the Nakba not as a moment of historical collective trauma rooted in the past, but as an ongoing process, as you said, of occupation, of dispossession, and you might have added of colonisation. But the second message is the message that Leanne touched on. It is the message that is consistently delivered to us by our Palestinian partners on the ground, consistently across Palestinian civil society, when we say to them, what do you require of us in solidarity? And the answer is always the same. Do us no harm. And what we mean by that, they say, is that you end the complicity of your government, of your public bodies, of your companies and corporations, without whose political, military, financial and diplomatic support, Israel could not sustain its system of apartheid. And in making that demand, they do not ask us to treat Israel to a different standard. They ask for Israel to be treated to the same standard that we should treat any state violating international law and human rights. Let me finish by saying this. Some of you would have seen today Rishi Sunak welcoming President Zelensky with these words. He said, Ukrainians need the sustained support of the international community to defend against the barrage of unrelenting attacks that have been their daily reality for a year. Absolutely right. In a different universe, he might have added, Palestinians need the sustained support of the international community to defend against the barrage of unrelenting attacks that have been their daily reality for 75 years.
I am standing. Thank you very much for the invitation, and to Ambassador Zuma for the kind invitation to tell me about this, and I'm very pleased to be here. For those who don't know, my name is Fa'alaiya. I was the United Kingdom's Minister for the Middle East for 5 years between 2010 and 2019, and as such I bear as much responsibility as any minister for conduct policy over that time. I'm here partly to say a little bit about what I'm doing, but I do have a question for Sam. I want to say I identify absolutely with what Saeed said. I thought you put it exceptionally well as to how Friends of Israel do not find it incompatible to support the existence of the State of Israel, but are deeply offended by a sense of injustice, which now hovers over the whole region because of the failure to deal with justice for the Palestinians. As a minister, I felt that, and as an individual now, I feel that. And I thought you and all the speakers have professed that extremely well. Not least to talk about the necessity to be careful with language, because we know how language is twisted. And these days, with social media as it is, it's even more important to be careful. Since I left Parliament, as Their Excellencies the Ambassadors know, I've been working, amongst other things, with an NGO dedicated to helping to find a resolution to the issue. Because whatever we may say and feel about the events of the past, there is only an answer by finding a resolution to the position on the ground now. And it's complex. Not everybody wants to deal with it. About 2 months ago, I spent time with this NGO in Washington and New York. I've spoken to maybe a dozen, 20 governments over the past year or so, asking what they're going to do with a deteriorating situation. There is no status quo between Israel and the West Bank and Gaza. It is getting worse day after day. The sense of hopelessness is great, and the sense of frustration that there's no political movement is as great. Unless that's tackled, and it needs external work and support, then there is no future. We're trying to put the case, and I will continue to do so. The question I have for Sam is this. It's not for you to talk about the readiness of Israeli politics to seek an answer. And again, another reason I suppose I'm here is I've seen a deterioration in Israeli politics, the acceptance of extremists who would never have been part of an Israeli government in the past, and they're now accelerating the process. But if there is one way in which the status quo is getting worse, there's another way in which the status quo is improving. And that is because there is a greater concentration on rights and justice. And I think I remember for a number of years. For many years it was about land and about moving things around and changing things on the ground in order to create a pattern of states. Now it is much more about rights and justice, not only in the United Kingdom or in the United States, but everywhere. But in order to build on that, there's got to be genuine movement for peace, and that requires political leadership of all sides and willingness to work. So without being able to speak about Israeli government, can you give us some insight as to where Palestinian leadership is now? and what we may be able to see in terms of a recognition by that leadership that the deteriorating situation needs some response from them. And with that response, there will be something for which other governments can then build upon and work with, because we have to bring this to a resolution. And if states can be assisted and helped in this by what's happening amongst Palestinian leadership, then we've got something else to grasp and something else to work on as we try and find a resolution. And you could be sure that there are many who are so concerned with this. We won't give it up. It was part of our life in Parliament. We're not giving it up now. And I suspect, like many in this room, we won't give it up until there is justice and resolution in this situation, and we will continue to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice, very much, and thank you for accepting the invitation. Along with all our friends. That is a very important question, and you are absolutely right. In the end, it's the Palestinian agency that is responsible to take us where we want to go, to challenge the very difficult reality. And I think we have had a very strong agency, not only in the political sense, but in the civil sense, in the cultural sense. The Palestinian people have been able to withstand the pressure that otherwise maybe was meant for us to vanish, to completely become part of history rather than geography. And our agency has been absolutely able, to withstand that sheer pressure that came our way, from the Balfour to the British Mandate, to the Zionist militias, to the Nakba, to all that has followed. And it's not just in the revolution and the PLO time of the 60s and the 70s and Yasser Arafat. It's also Mahmoud Darwish and our poets. It's also Edward Said and our intellectuals and academics. We are a nation that has produced a hell of an agency until this very moment, all the way to Riyadh Muhammad. And the agency and the leadership is not just one person. It's a collective. Having said that, and despite all the odds, number one, we have managed to stop at least international actors from denying our very existence. I believe you mean up until the 70s, that was the mainstream. And it took us a long time to fight, struggle, engage, so we have an embassy or a mission or a London here, or in Washington. Remember, Alistair, I presented my credentials to you. That did not come of nothing. It came of generations of real sweat. We are not passive victims. We are very active victims defending our rights. That's number two, all the way to being a state in the international system, the UN system. All the way using that state to go to the ICC and the ICJ and bringing about accountability that the international system is failing to do. All of them. Yeah. The leadership, at one point in the late 80s, under the sheer pressure of the international community, including Britain, but primarily the social democratic parties of Europe, like Bruno Kreisky and Willy Brandt of Germany, and many great leaders who engaged Yasser Arafat of the time and engaged the PLO. At the time, the PLO platform was one democratic state for all of its citizens. That was the Palestinian National Platform Program and the Palestinian Political Agency. And the talk was adopt international resolutions, international legitimacy, and then we will deliver the outcome. We will deliver. What's the international consensus? Two states. Two states on the 1967 borders, and ending with the occupation, Palestine, independent sovereign, East Jerusalem is occupied therefore the capital of Palestine, and a just and a fair resolution to the issue of refugees. That's the international. The Palestinian leadership since then, and not only Yasser Arafat, but also current President Mahmoud Abbas, played a key role in shifting towards the two-state solution. Not as a Palestinian demand. I just want to remind everyone, the two-state solution was never a Palestinian demand, it was a Palestinian concession. Concession. To ally ourselves with the international system, with the international order, with the international legitimacy, with the post-World War rules-based order that was created here after the horrors of the Second World War. These values, these rules, these resolutions were not ours. It was yours. And the Palestinian leadership is blamed today in Palestine for committing so hard to that international consensus and to committing to the dot to the provisions of the Oslo Accords. So where the Palestinian leadership right now, it's in a state of a post-trauma shock, because over the last 30 years, the international community has completely and utterly failed to enforce its own resolution. And I tell you, this post-traumatic or post-shock situation will produce something new with all that has happened. And I'm saying this to say we have issues, Alistair, divisions between parties, we have issues. The PLO requires to be reformed, and the democratic renewal in it is a must, and it's a requirement for the Palestinian people. We pride ourselves that we are a democratic nation. We pride ourselves that our legitimacy goes back to our people. We have issues, however, and we have to take responsibility of our own doings, including the division between Gaza and the takeover of Hamas of Gaza. That has been a self-inflicted wound. We have to stand and say, we have made mistakes, and we did. However, and please, Alistair, hear me out, because I hear this all over. Whenever I go to any media, like only recently, Newsbite, only 3 days ago, it's a got you moment about the Palestinian leadership. It's almost a logic that we brought it upon ourselves. We are mismanaged, and we are, and we don't deserve a state because our institutions are not functioning. Our institutions were functioning, and Yasser Arafat was the leader of every Palestinian, and we were united, and yet he was besieged in front of the eyes of the world and killed without any of the international actors intervening. Right? And the division between Gaza and the West Bank is sustained to our eyes via $15 million that go in cash every month in sacks and suitcases carried by Israeli soldiers. So they want to sustain the division. They want to keep it. And I'm saying all this to say, yes, we have to fix our issues. And yes, that will help in the overall. But even if we do that, without a real change in the power relations, without an equal application of international law, without a serious movement in the international community, South Africa would still be under apartheid until today. Until now. It was the people here. The anti-apartheid movement emanated from London. That's why we have the South Africa House. It was the movement, the pressure, the real sanctions, the isolation, the change of the power dynamics. Why would Israel elect the most fanatics, the ones who are convicted with terrorism? Because there are no consequences. And I'm sorry, my good friend, best friend, and all here. We may have made few mistakes here and there, even big mistakes. But the biggest mistake of all is the absolute insistence of the Western-led, US-led Western community to put Israel above the law. The biggest obstacle is the selectivity of rules. The biggest obstacle is this hypocrisy. Because you know what? Even if tomorrow we convene elections, and by the way, elections under occupation will never be complete, will never be perfect, because elections require sovereignty. And sometimes when we convene elections under occupation, it's a function of the occupation and at the whim of the occupier, like happened last time. And when we convene democratic elections like 2006, and Hamas wins, the UK government would be the first to say, we will not deal with this. So it's a cherry pick. We only accept our democratic process if it comes out the results that you expect. And I know sometimes we focus too much on the international side, but our issue was created by the international side. It was created here in this very room. It was created here in this very city, and then it was sustained and has been sustained by a US. You think Israel would be able to do all this without the sustained US military, financial, economic, and what have you? And therefore, there is nothing we could do at this point in time more than, of course, fixing our system, but fixing our system that will correspond to the demands of our people, not to the demands of external actors, and changing the reality outside in a way that will enable us to start the process of a real pressure on Israel. Sorry, I took my time for that. That's my answer.
all been amazing in your own way. Thank you very much for your time, and thank everyone here for coming this evening and showing your support for Palestine.
إذن متابعينا في موقع عرب لندن، كنا معكم في تغطية مباشرة وخاصة من داخل البرلمان البريطاني في ذكرى نكبة 75 لنكبة الشعب الفلسطيني. شاهدنا كلمة لسفير الفلسطيني في بريطانيا الدكتور حسام زملة، وبمشاركة عدد كبير من البرلمانيين البريطانيين والنشطاء في حقوق الإنسان دعما للقضية الفلسطينية واستنكارا للعدوان الإسرائيلي المستمر على شعبنا الفلسطيني. إذن كان معكم